Welcome back to the Warriors Way podcast. My name's Tim, the host here, and I have my good friend Brian Baker on the podcast today to talk. And I'm really excited for you guys to get to know Brian. I met Brian just under a year ago, I think. So you guys, I feel like every time we have a podcast, we end up talking about the Mid-State Mile in Tennessee in some way.
We do. Yep.
And so Brian's cousin lives up here in Michigan, and they both signed up to run the Mid-State Mile, the last man standing race down in Tennessee. And they got connected with Doug Moore. You guys have met Doug. They got connected with him through Strava, and they were kind of curious about how to enter the training for Mid-State Mile. And if you know Doug, this doesn't surprise you, but he's like, well, if you really want to know, you should come up to Michigan and train with us. And after a little bit of prodding, Brian's finally like, okay, I got a plane ticket. We're coming up there and we're going. So Brian's from out in Colorado. He flew here to Michigan, him and his cousin. We're going to come out and train with us. And I told Doug, I was like, well, that's cool that they're going to come out on a Saturday, but we got Warriors Way first. So did you tell them they have to come to Warriors Way first? And they came to Warriors Way with us. They had a good workout, and then a group of us went to the hill for the day and spent some time training. So that's where we met. And then, our friendship, we stayed in touch all the way through Tennessee in June. So I saw him and his cousin Shane back down there in Tennessee. We spent some more time running around in a circle. And
Yep.
then we got connected through this Instagram message group of like-minded guys who are just trying to help keep each other accountable on our fitness and our faith. And our friendship grew over the year. We spent some more time down in Tennessee in December. And then before that race, though, Brian reached out and, I was flattered, but he reached out and asked, hey, Tim, would you mind if I started a chapter of Warriors Way out here in Colorado? And that was never my intention to have, something else. I was just trying to build something for the guys here in Michigan. But Brian saw the value in it and wanted to start one for some guys out in Colorado. So he started our second chapter of Warriors Way out in Wiggins, Colorado. And that was around September. And so every week, we meet here in Michigan, they meet out in Colorado and do the same type of stuff that we do here. It's centered around faith, family, and fitness. So then we meet again down in Tennessee in December, have a good time. And I want to have Brian on just to kind of share some of his story. And he's got a lot to offer. So I'm going to give it to Brian, let him kind of introduce himself. And who is Brian Baker?
Well, wow. Who is Brian Baker? Well, I'm like you said, I'm in Colorado now. I live in Wiggins, Colorado. Um, I'm married. I have two kids, and they're both married. I have two grandchildren now. As of last week, I had our second grandchild, who's a granddaughter named Maisie Ray, and then I have a third grandchild on the way in May. So, family is a huge thing for me. Been out in Colorado for a long time. I'm a fireman with the Denver Fire Department. Been a firefighter now for almost 27 years. Um, but yeah, family is a huge thing for us. Michelle and I have been together for almost 30 years now. Um, so it's just a really cool thing. I I grew up in the church. I have a dad, honestly, who is about to get his doctorate in theology. So I was born into the church. Um, and when I graduated, I wouldn't say fell away, but just kind of put it on the back burner, right? I've always had my faith, but it just was always put on the back burner. And then work and kids and everything like that. It just kind of stayed that way and it just became the norm. And it wasn't till recently, the last few years, that I really found that finding the Lord again and really creating a relationship with the Lord was so important. Just through like some trials and tribulations and things that I went through, I found that honestly leaning on the Lord and the Word became so much more important. So that's kind of where we are now. And then, as you explained, I went up to go train with Doug, right? He is good at throwing that hook out and kind of sinking it, especially for two guys he doesn't even know, right? One of us lives in Clarkston, Michigan. The other one's in Wiggins, Colorado. He throws it out there as like, hey, you want to really learn how to train for this thing? Come on out to Michigan. It took me about 5 minutes, man. I had that plane ticket. It was like, let's do it. He threw out the Warriors Way thing as kind of like, hey, if you're going to do this, we meet at this time, 7:16 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I thought, cool, get to meet the guys. It was so much fun, man. Just seeing the camaraderie you guys had, the group of men that are all there for the same reason. And it really stuck with me. I mean, the training the rest of the day was great, right? It was for mid-state. That's what we were there for. But it was just always in the back of my mind, like, how cool these guys have that, right? And when I got home from mid-state, a few months, I kind of pondered it a while, and I talked to my wife a bunch, and she's a lot like you, Tim. She said, "Man, I think you need this. I think this is something you need." And selfishly, I did start the group because I needed it. Okay, so reached out to a couple guys that I knew, and it kind of has grown from there. But we're trying to kind of just mirror the same thing you guys have up in Michigan. But we've got a great group of guys. We show up every Saturday. But I will say we're probably not as tough as you guys because it's cold in Michigan, and you guys do it in a parking lot with cinder blocks, no matter what the conditions, right? We're lucky enough that I do have a garage gym. We can heat it up, and we have weights. So we do it a little different that way, but some might call us soft. Doug might call us soft, but we're out here doing the same thing every Saturday, and it's been great. But that's kind of how that all started. But it was just that little hook that you guys threw out, like, hey, you guys want to run? Come to Warriors Way first. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So first, Doug is notorious for being very good at setting that challenge out there and almost making you feel like you're missing out if you don't accept it, right? And
Absolutely. Yep.
coming from Colorado, somebody would be like, well, training for an elevation type race, why are you going to go to Michigan? Like, well, hey,
It,
you could very easily, like, Doug, you come to Colorado, you know?
yes.
It's like,
Yes.
I'm going to go to Michigan to train for this high vertical gain, last man standing race. So, I mean, you're like me in the fact that when somebody throws an offer out there and puts that hook in, I'm hooked. I'm hooked very
Right.
quickly. I'm hooked very easily. And I'm the kind of person, it's like, yeah, I would definitely go up and travel somewhere to hang out and train with a group of people I don't know. That sounds like a blast. There's some
Yes.
people that is their version of torture. Like, are you kidding me?
Sure.
There's not a chance.
Sure.
Um, so, I see God moving through this whole thing because the way you guys, I mean, it's a small race down in Tennessee. Most people find it through the Chad Wright documentary.
Absolutely.
Um, so you guys find out about this race, and then you find this random guy, Doug, on Strava and start following him. And then you have to reach out to him. And then you have to accept the invitation. Doug has to set the invitation. You have to accept the invitation and
Right.
then come up. And, that's a huge investment to come up here. And then he throws out another thing. Like, I'm coming up here to spend as much time and energy as I can running and training and getting elevation. And you want me to come do a workout first. And I can imagine there's some like, well, no, I'll just meet you at the hill. Just give me the address to the hill, right?
Right.
But accepting that and just being, kind of going all in and completely surrendering to that experience. Now you get to meet, a group of people that you probably wouldn't have met otherwise. And it
Absolutely.
plants a seed that wouldn't have been, we could have told you, yeah, this is what we did this morning. And you probably been like, oh, that's really cool.
Right.
But
Yeah.
without
No,
experiencing it, you don't really understand what's on the other side.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I think that's really cool. It's a really cool story on, how those lines just kind of entwine together. Um, so firefighter, 20 plus years in Denver. Is that what you
Hmm.
always done is firefighting, or did you come into, how did you come into firefighting?
It was one of those things that I always wanted to be a firefighter ever since I was a kid. You know, you have kids that they want to be Navy SEALs or police officers or firemen or astronauts or whatever, right? It was just one of those things I never shook. It was ever since I was a kid, you can ask my mom, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. And it was just something that I just always had in the back of my mind and wanted to do. I went into the Navy to be a fireman. It's a damage controlman in the Navy. Once I got out, I was able to get into a fire academy, and I thought I was pretty naive about the whole thing. I thought once you went to a fire academy, you're going to get on a fire department. Little did I know that it's a highly competitive process to become a fireman. So I had some years there where I was testing on various places, and while I was waiting to test, I did various things. I did construction, I built cell phone towers, things like that, until I was actually given an opportunity to be a fireman. And Cheyenne, Wyoming was the first place that offered me that opportunity. I was there for about 2 years and then was able to make it back down into Colorado in the metro area, to live out that career. And it's been such a great career. It's it's so fulfilling. You want to help people. You're going to see people on their worst day. Nobody's calling the fire department just because they're happy about it, right? There's usually something terribly wrong, whether their house is on fire or whether it's a medical emergency or a car wreck. Um, we're kind of the all-encompassing thing. When people don't know what to do, they just call the fire department and we'll come in and take care of it. So it's been super fulfilling. And I was on the streets for a better part of 21, 22 years until I had an accident. And the accident that I had has made me move into more of the office part of firefighting. So now I happen to be out at Denver International Airport. I'm a fire inspector there. So that's my basic job. But July 10th of 2021 is when that all changed. I went from being on one of the busiest engine companies in Denver, being part of the special operations team, which was dive team, rope rescue, structural collapse, and then just the regular firefighting. But I was involved in uh, a razor or side by side type thing.
Hmm.
Uh, we are all out here at our land. We were having just kind of a July party out here, and my senior fireman and myself went out and drove razors. He's never driven a razor before. His name's Pat Mahan. He was a highly decorated Marine, and just one hell of a firefighter. He was out here. We were riding around in the razors, and we ended up getting in an accident where we rolled the razor. Pat actually lost his life in that accident, and I was actually airlifted to the hospital with a lot of injuries. This is where things took a change for me, right? One of my best friends, one of the people that I most respected, lost his life on our four wheeler on our land, and I somehow made it. Okay, so it's one of those things you have big guilt of even surviving that thing. Um, just in the injuries I had that to fight the way back. But Tim, this is where it gets weird because I don't remember that wreck at all, and there's parts of my mind that probably protect me from remembering anything in that wreck. But I remember all the moments leading up to that wreck, and then I remember waking up in the ICU. But I have a strong feeling that Pat and I both went up to where you would go after you passed. And I have a strong feeling that Pat cut a deal. He knew I had kids. He knew I had a daughter who was just going to be married. And I have a strong feeling in my heart that Pat said, take me, but don't take him. And that's how I ended up here. Neither one of us should have made it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that that's where I was like, I need to respect that decision that was made, and I need to get back into the word, and I need to get back into God, because it was God only that kept me here on this earth. And now I have two grandbabies to show for it, and I have both of my kids are married. So that's kind of how that started. Um, and I don't even remember your question. I'm sorry, but
No, it was, yeah, that, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing that.
oh, no problem.
You've talked to me about Pat before, and I know you guys do the 5K every year in his honor.
We
And
do.
I'll drop details to that in the show notes so that people can
Appreciate
know
it.
where to go and get information about that. But I appreciate you sharing that. I know that that's not easy. Um, so you started as a firefighter.
Yep.
You went through this whole thing. You had this accident that was life changing.
Hmm.
So from that accident, you said, I want to get my life, back and honor that decision that Pat made. And
Right.
that it doesn't sound crazy. I completely believe that, that stuff is real. And
Mhm.
so now you're honoring Pat's decision. What changes did you go from, and what changes did you make to honor that decision that he did?
Well, the first thing is like I got with my dad. He's the biggest one that I know that's so strong in faith and knows the Bible, right? So I got with him because I thought, Dad, this makes no sense. He's 31 years old. Pat was when he passed away. He's 31 years old. How could this happen? You always hear like, well, God needed him more than than we needed him here. I've heard that so many times, and I think that's just something we tell ourselves. And I talked to my dad about it and was just like, how does that make sense? How could God need him more than we needed him down here? And my dad just kind of said it straight. He said, stuff happens, Brian. Bad stuff happens to good people, right? Not necessarily did God need him more up there than he needed him here, because God probably needed him here as well. But things just happen that we can't explain. And I thought, I can get around that. I can get around that more than anything else. So then I just tried to just start this like passion project and relentless pursuit of just being happy in life and just trying to basically live for Pat, live stuff for Pat, right? So I could help myself through. So there's things I did. I did like 365 days of CrossFit Hero WODs for a year. I thought that would be a great way to represent Pat. And then we started a foundation in his name, which gives scholarships to seniors that are going into a service type career, whether it be fire, EMS, nursing, anything like that. We just wanted to outreach, and this is not by myself. This is with Pat's sister and brother, and well as with my wife. They took me in. They treat me so well. Like you could see that maybe they could be mad that they lost their brother, but they surrounded us all with a hug, and I thought that was so special. So I started doing things that I thought were just fitness based to just basically live for Pat, right? I started doing the ultra running because I was just running for Pat. And then I found that through this all, I was just running away from things. I was just trying to bury myself in things that hurt and then things that were challenging and things that were tough, just to, I feel like, punish myself for surviving. And I don't know how else to say it, but I remember Andrea after one of my, which is Pat's sister. I think it was after the 100 miler. She texted me and said, "Congratulations on the 100 miler. I really hope you found what you were looking for."
Mhm.
And that was profound to me. I thought, what am I looking for? You know, and that's when I thought, I'm looking for God. I'm looking for help. And at that point, the only help I could think was punish yourself, find the hardest things you can do and just hurt yourself. And when I finally opened up and just said, God, I need your help to get through this. Pat, I need your help to get through this. That's when things started to change. Not No longer was I running away from something. I was running for myself. I was running for Pat, and I was running through things. So I kind of just buried myself into this ultras 365 days, and it was in my mind, I was like, this is uplifting Pat, and we're getting his name out there. But in no way was I helping myself till I turned to the Lord. And that's when I really started to pray. It's really when I started to get back into the Bible and into the Word, and then talking with my dad just to get things where I feel like they needed to be. And then Warriors Way happened. And I live in Wiggins, which is not a big community, and we're all spread out on a rural part of Colorado. So you don't have all these places to go to meet people, don't have gyms to really go to. Uh, my wife and I used to run a CrossFit gym for 8 years in Wiggins, and that was kind of our community, right? We had that. But since 2018, we haven't had that since we've closed down. So this Warriors Way has been a great way for me to bring in like-minded men, like-minded individuals that are have great faith, have great families, and are strong-willed about fitness. So it basically surrounded myself with like-minded individuals like you guys have, and it's been huge. So that's when I say, I am not leading this group. I just have a place for this group to meet, and we're all leading each other, and it feels so good. So through that whole process as 2021, it's been just step after step after step, finding what I needed. And that was a relationship with the Lord. And, so many times in the Bible, you find out the Lord wants that relationship with us. He is so thirsting for us to have a relationship, right? And we read the Bible and we do this and do that, but he wants to know us and he needs us to know him. That's one of the biggest things I've felt. And one of the hardest things I had was with praying. Right? It sounds easy, but I thought it was such a transactional thing when I thought about it. It was just like, hey, God, it's me again. This is what I want. This is what I need. And I always thought, man, it seems so selfish, right? But he wants us to talk to him. So now I'm finding out how to pray, how to listen, how to see what he wants to use me as, right? Instead of just asking for things. And Tim, I tell you, that's where it's been the biggest thing for me is just kind of slowing down, seeing what he wants from me, learning more about him. He already knows everything about me and my wants and what I'm going to be praying about. But how about we kind of try to learn a little bit about him as well? And I see you guys doing that all the time. Like I remember when I went to Warriors Way, you were talking about David versus Goliath, right? And King David. And I thought, man, as a kid, that was such a cool story, right? Because there was action in it. And as a kid, you were like, heck yeah. But as you learn more about it, you're like, okay, all right. It's just that was a roundabout way to answer that question, but
Yeah. It's interesting because there's two different sides of the spectrum. There's those that are finding faith for the first time in their adult life.
mhm,
Some people it's that way. And the stories and the things they read about the Bible are awesome and captivating and new, and there's excitement there. And then there's people that have known the Bible their whole life, but are knowing the Bible and really knowing the Bible for the first time in their adult life.
that's well
And
said. Yeah.
I have a similar story when it comes to getting back into the faith. So, like you, I grew up in a church. I told it on the podcast with Tim. Uh, I was born on a Sunday, so I'm pretty sure I was in the nursery at church on Sunday night,
Yeah.
like because we didn't miss church. It was Sunday
Right.
morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday,
Exactly.
evening,
Yeah.
Saturday. Like I grew up in a church, really. And I heard all these stories, and I think there's something about learning them as a child that, that's the most formative years of your life. So you learn a lot of scripture, you learn a lot of these stories, but you don't know what they mean.
Right.
And then you grow up into your teenage and adolescent years, and it's like these stories are things you've known for your whole life. They don't really mean anything to you anymore.
Right.
And life starts hitting you. You get out of high school, you start as an adult, and it's not until you have something that brings you back to that. You're like, oh, that's what that meant.
Hmm.
And, I'm thankful that God is a God of many, many chances. And, the Father that He is, there's nothing that we can do to ever get too far away from Him, that He's not right there when you turn around. And I know in my life, I've seen that, in your life, you've seen that, and it's
Hmm.
really powerful. Um, yeah, so you come back in 2021 is kind of when you start making this shift, right? And you start
Hmm.
running for a purpose. It's no longer running from something. And I think a lot of men, we struggle with that, especially men who are really involved in fitness. It's like, what's the point of it?
Right.
What's the point? What's the point of staying healthy? What's the point of going to the gym? What is the point of doing 100-mile races? It's not,
Right.
that actually really isn't healthy for you.
No.
It's
Yeah.
insane and it's crazy to anyone else that does it. And there's people out there that do these races and I'm sure are not Christ followers and they have their own reasons. But
Right.
like you see this and it's like I'm running from something. I'm making myself busy. I'm getting involved in this hobby. I'm involved in this golf league. I'm I'm drinking. I'm
Hmm.
doing drugs. All these things are, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing like alcohol or drugs. It could be fitness.
Right.
That is your vice to keep you from unpacking what you're supposed to unpack. So
Totally.
you do this 100-miler, you get this message that says, I hope you found what you're looking for.
Right.
And what a powerful message that is.
It hit me
And
hard.
then
Yeah.
and then you sit there and you're like, man, what am I looking for? And you go on to this journey of discovering this is what I need.
Right.
what has fitness done for you since then that's brought you closer to the Lord?
Well, I mean, the easy question is fitness brought me to Midstate, which had started this whole thing, right? And I don't believe in coincidences, right? So I think signing up for Midstate, finding Doug has started this whole thing. But now with faith, it's discipline, right? I was always looked at as working out as discipline. It's motivation's one thing, motivation can be a lie. But if you're disciplined and you get out there every morning, like I see you on Instagram, you get out there every morning, you're forming discipline in your life, you're forming discipline in your family and your faith. So if you treat working out the same as your faith, finding discipline, finding time to pray, finding time to read, um, finding time to talk to God, I think that's been the most important thing. Is me you if you make fitness a priority, you should make family a priority. If you make family a priority, you need to start with faith, because that's where it all starts, right? So that's been the biggest thing for me. I've always been disciplined in fitness. I love fitness, but now I'm just trying to make that discipline come over to the faith side, which then bleeds into every other part of your life, right? If you start there, good things are going to happen. And I tell you, I have felt so good since I've started this journey. Ever since we started Warriors Way, I feel like I'm more patient. I feel like I'm slower to anger. There's things that I can say has happened because of that. And my family has recognized it, and it's been such a good thing. And so that's all bled together: family, fitness, and faith, just like you put on your flag. And when I said I want to fly your flag here, I didn't mean physically fly your flag, but that flag is sweet. And it's a great reminder. And we take a picture every week in front of that flag. But that's what we're here for, right? And if you start with that, those foundations, it just leads to a better life. And I believe that 100%.
Yeah, so so many people try to, I believe every person that's married wants to have a successful marriage, right? I
Absolutely.
believe every person that goes to the gym wants to be in shape.
Hmm.
But wanting to and having the discipline to do that are two very different things. And if you're not rooted in faith, I truly believe that you are fighting a losing battle in your family, in your fitness, and in every other area of your life. The Bible talks about delight yourself also in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Hmm.
I used to listen to that verse growing up, and I'm like, well, if I go to church and I read my Bible and I pray and I show God that I'm delighting in him, he'll give me this thing that I really want, you
Right.
know, because that's the desire of my heart. And what I've learned as I've grown is when you do all that stuff and you have the right motive, I want to get to know God because I want to get this intimate relationship with him because I can't live
Absolutely.
without it. When you delight yourself all in the Lord, he puts the desires in your heart for you to have. And there's multiple examples of people who have gone down this path and rediscovered their faith and how it's impacted their relationship with their family, but also how
Absolutely.
it's impacted the relationship with their fitness. And like you've developed these disciplines in fitness. Those disciplines are not just related to fitness.
Right.
Like those disciplines are translatable to what you're doing with your family and what you're doing with your faith. And I love what you
Absolutely.
said. If you want to be physically fit and you want to be physically disciplined, you have to focus on your family as well. And
What
if
it
you want to
starts with.
focus on your family and you want to have a disciplined and healthy family, it starts with faith. So I love that, man.
Thank you.
One thing you said, kind of shifting gears a little bit, but you said you and
Sure.
your wife ran a CrossFit gym for a
We
while.
did.
So
Yes.
I didn't know this part about you, but that's always been something that's been kind of in the back of my mind because I obviously love exercising. I like getting
Hmm.
people together and running a gym. So what was that like to run a CrossFit gym?
Well, I tell you, I used to run races as a firefighter called the Firefighter Combat Challenge. It's about a 2 minute race. I trained for that for many years because I wanted to break 140. That was 140 was the goal at the time. And a guy told me, he's like, "Do you train CrossFit at all?" And I was like, "Don't even know what that is." So he's like, "Man, you should look into it." So I looked into it, started training CrossFit in my backyard by myself, fell in love with it, fell in love with the methodology and how it made me feel and the results I was having in that race. So I went, asked my wife, I was like, hey, I would love to get certified in CrossFit. Went and got certified. And then her and I would work out every day doing CrossFit. And at the time, my son was playing baseball. And like the parents would kind of hear about, like, what are you guys doing? This sounds interesting. And we're like, just come on out. Come on out. So we would have a group of probably 8 to 10 every morning doing CrossFit. And then I thought, man, it just happened organically. And then there was one night when I had a night class. All this was free, by the way. We had a night class, and I turned around and there was like 25 people there, and I knew probably a quarter of them. And I thought, man, I should probably get some liability waivers for one, since I don't know these people, and we might start charging. So at the time, we affiliated with CrossFit. My wife went ahead and got her CrossFit level one as well. We affiliated, and then we ended up finding a gym in Wiggins, or finding a space in Wiggins that we could rent, and we started Farm Boy CrossFit because we're all farmers out here. So we started Farm Boy CrossFit, and that went on for 8 years till my wife got another opportunity and she took that, but because she took the majority of it on, because when I was at work, she had to coach everything. So she was coaching CrossFit classes, coaching high school volleyball. And then when I was off of work, I was coaching CrossFit classes and then helping her with the physical part of the volleyball training. But yeah, it lasted 8 years. It was awesome. We had a community of about 80 members. Um, but that's kind of where our whole community was, because it kind of felt the same. Every there was there for one goal. Everybody supported everybody. Didn't matter if you were first in the class or last in the class. Everybody was cheering you on, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be, right? But falling in love with CrossFit was easy because it once you get into the methodology and what it does, I think it's the best way to train. I still do it now when I'm training for my ultras, because it hits every energy system that you need. Endurance doesn't bleed over into strength, but strength bleeds over into endurance. So um, I love it. I will go back to it. I'll be doing the CrossFit Open here in a couple months just to see where I hash out in my age group, because I am an age grouper now. I I can say that, but yeah, we loved every part of CrossFit and we were super into it. And it gave us just an opportunity to meet people, coach people. And yeah, we loved it.
That's awesome. So your Saturday mornings, training one class a week, this is nothing for you now.
It's fun getting back to it though. I'll tell you, Tim, like when I needed it, I needed that group of guys that were big into their faith to help me grow, right? That's why I selfishly did Warriors Way, to for guys that I knew that were unabashed in their faith. Will talk to people about it, because I was always jealous of that, right? I always had faith, but to talk to somebody about it, I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge of the subject. I didn't know if I'd come across, you know, where people wouldn't take me seriously. Um, so I got that group of guys, and now we're here on Saturday, so I get to train and I get to grow. So it's so cool. Yeah, it's very
You know what
cool.
I found is there's nobody that's worthy to talk about
It's,
the gospel.
it's true.
There's one person,
One
and his
person,
name's
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
right,
Everybody else is not worthy. And there's multiple stories in the Bible where people are talking to Christ. And he's like, I'm not worthy to share these messages, and it said no one's worthy. The show, The Chosen. Have you watched The Chosen?
love it. Yes, and that
So
took me back
yes.
too. Yes,
Yeah, so the actor that plays Jesus in The Chosen, there's a story about how he is on set and he's got to say these lines, and it's lines that Jesus spoke. And he's kind of goes quiet for a second. The director comes up to him and is like, what's going on? He goes, I'm not worthy to say these words. And he said, Jonathan, nobody's worthy. Nobody's worthy, but all are worthy to hear them. And it's like, you know, everybody needs to hear the gospel. That's the Great Commission, is that we share the gospel with every corner of the world. And if we wait for the right person to be worthy, or we wait till we are worthy to do it, it never happens.
right,
And what I have found, at least for myself, is the folks who are disciplined in their life, specifically in fitness, and their families, they're not, nobody's perfect. We understand that. But when they
right,
talk about Christ and they talk about Jesus, their words carry more weight. And, I don't know the exact verse in the Bible, but I think it's Paul talks about he disciplines his body to make himself worthy. And it's like these disciplines that you're showing, there's a countenance that somebody carries when they walk into a room and you can tell they are in shape and
Hmm.
they are fit. And it's
Right.
like a person of integrity, they're a person of discipline, they're a person of self-respect, and their word means more. Whether we like that or not, when that person comes in and talks, they demand a certain amount of attention
Sure.
because it's like this person's doing something right, so I want to listen to this. And
Absolutely.
again, nothing's perfect. I started Warriors Way for the same exact reason you did. Doug and I were on a run, and he was talking to me about these guys that he has all over the country that do stupid races that I will never sign up for. And he's like, but I don't have anybody locally that is
Right.
this. He goes, Tim, you're like my only friend locally that is a Christian. And he goes, um, I think there was one other person he told me about his buddy Dan, and it was like me, him, and Dan. I didn't know
Yep.
Dan at the time,
Right.
and I had some friends in church. We have a small group that we meet with church, and I had some of that group, um, but I needed more, and I knew there was a need for it in our community. And selfishly, I'm like, well, I want to be around more people that are doing the things I want to do, getting in shape, that are going through the same struggles I am with young kids. And I want to be around people that have older kids and I want to learn from
Right.
them and I want them to learn from me. And I want to help people get in shape and I want people to help me get in shape. And I
Right.
want people to challenge me on growing in my spiritual fitness. And I want to help those to grow in spiritual fitness. So same for me. It was 100%, selfishly that we started it. And just recently, I've told it every week, like this is not my group, guys.
Right.
This is our group.
Right.
So I'm going to show up every week with the workout and with the devotion, but this is our group. So if you want
Yep.
to lead the workout, tell me, hey Tim, I got workout this week. Awesome. Or I got the devotion this week. Awesome. I'm all for it. But this is not just mine. Somebody said, oh, well, I'd like to do this, but I know Warrior's Way is your thing. I was like, no, Warrior's Way is our thing.
That's
Like
right.
if you want to do it, throw it out there. Let's do it.
Right.
Um, so it's one of those things where I think you have to have a little bit of selfish intent, but you're selfishly trying to get closer to Christ, in the midst of it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's not a bad reason to be selfish.
Well, and at the beginning, I was like, you know, why? What? I'm sure people looked at was like Brian's leading a faith-based community. That's kind of weird. And then I was telling that to a friend. I was like, I'm really enjoying it, but I'm sure people are like, Brian, huh? And then he kind of told me the story of Gideon again. He's like, dude, God may have a plan. You may not be the most faithful, the biggest, strongest, oldest, most wise, but he's using you for something. And I thought that was the first time I was like, well, that's cool. God could be
Yeah.
using me for something. I'm all in. So yeah, whether you think you're up enough on the Bible or pray hard enough or can actually answer questions that somebody might have. It's one of those things like I don't know that answer, but let's dive into it. Not I'll get back to you, but let's dive into it, right? And let's all learn together. And that's been the coolest part because every Saturday and preparing for Saturdays or somebody else might speak on Saturday, I always leave thinking, well, that was cool and it always hits home. There's things that just hit home, right? So it's been a journey that I'm incredibly blessed to be on, and I thank you for that. Just kind of opening my eyes that we can do something like that, right? But it's exciting to see how it progresses. And in some days you'll have three guys or two guys, and some days you'll have six guys, because we're not to your size yet. But it's like doesn't matter who comes, man. You know, we're going to be here, like you said, with a workout, and we're going to have a devotional. And the talking after the devotional about what we've learned has always been the coolest because there's always somebody that you know just like coaching, right? You go do a movement, you're doing, say, a dumbbell thruster, and somebody gives you a cue and you just don't get it. Just doesn't make sense. So you just aren't progressing. But there's going through Bible and going through verses. Sometimes it's like a rhyme that's just wrapped in another riddle, and you're like, I don't get that, right? But there's always somebody there that's going to break it down, and it just makes it easy to digest. And you're like, I didn't think of it that way, but that makes so much sense to me now. So that's what's cool about it, the back and forth and the give and take.
Yeah.
So
I there's a quote that I've heard and I like, it just reminded me when you were talking. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
there you go.
And
Yeah.
this is another thing that goes back to growing up hearing all these stories. Like you hear the story of Gideon in the army, you hear the story of David and Goliath and how he
Yes.
became this amazing, king. You hear about the story of Bathsheba, but that's kind of like a little side piece on the great story of David. And you hear about all these great men and these great things. And then when you're older and you can actually unpack this stuff, it's like every person God used was tragically broken. Like
Right.
they were a
Yes.
mess of people that God used. I
Yes.
mean, Moses killed a dude. Moses
Yes.
killed a dude in Egypt. He had some form of speech impediment or something that gave him anxiety about leading and talking to people. He doubted God. Like he had anger problems. You see that over and over. Like
Mhm.
all these people that God used for, and we call them like the mighty men of the Bible, had horrible, tragic past of being imperfect.
Right.
And then we sit here and it's like, oh man, I don't know if I know how to answer this question, so I probably shouldn't start this thing. And it's like
Right.
the honestly, the more broken you are, the more chance there is that God's going to call you to do something great. So it's like, buckle up.
Well, yeah. And I look back, July 10th, 2021, lowest I could possibly be, right? And broken. And then try to just, you know, tear and claw and find my way out of it on my own just by doing ultras and this and that. And just knowing Pat made that sacrifice for me, and it was easy for God to come in and be like, "Here's a broken man, let's help him out of this." And once they were patient, right? Once they waited for me to be like, oh, "I could use some help, and I know you're there, and you can help me." Boom, skyrocketed out of there. So yeah, that really resonates with me. Sometimes the most broken people are going to be the best tools. Sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, people need someone to relate to.
Mm.
Nobody relates to someone that's perfect. Nobody relates
No.
to somebody who's got it all together. In fact, like, there's people in my life that I've gotten to know as I've gotten older. It's like, man, I wish I would have known your story a long time ago because
Right.
I was going through something similar that I really needed to lean on someone, and I had no idea the I looked at you as somebody who had everything together and how much closer our bond and relationship is now that I know that, hey, you're not perfect and you're just
No.
like me, I'm just like you. Okay, cool. Let's go like get closer to Jesus together. And
Right.
it's a powerful those bonds form very powerfully. And I think that's what's so special about Warrior's Way is you're taking a bunch of people who don't have it all figured out and you're putting them together so that they can help each other figure pieces out together and grow
Mhm.
together. Like men just don't we don't have that. We don't have that opportunity. It's very, very rare that we have an opportunity to number one, grow together. I mean, you see guys that go to the gym together and they're gym bros and they're going to meet at the gym 3 or 4 days a week.
Mhm.
But what are they talking about outside of there? Like, are they
Right.
only growing each other physically? Are they only their gym bro? And they're going to talk about the bro science of, proteins and carbs and macros and all that kind of stuff, how much they can bench? Or are they
Right.
challenging each other to be like, yeah, that's awesome, man. But in their time between sets, are they sharing what God's been talking to them about? And, you go to
Yeah.
Warriors Way and it's like, yeah, we have fun. We joke around with each other. But we sit there and we develop this deep relationship to where somebody's going to throw a prayer request out there in a chat and they got 25 people that are, hey, I'm on it. And it's not
Yeah.
just, hey, yeah, I'll pray for you. It's, no, I'm praying right now for you.
Right.
And it's powerful.
Well, and there's always growth, and you always can make some great relationships through suffering. You've heard that before, whether you're suffering in a workout together in, in the gym, if you're suffering for 40 hours together, like we have, or you just suffering in life and you reach out and there's a hand there to help you up, um, that's where those relationships are formed. You talk about the gym bros. Yeah, they're probably suffering through a 5 by 10 of bench, but that are they really talking? And I think that's where Warriors Way comes in, is like, we're really talking, we're opening up those avenues. We've had people that have come, out here for Warriors Way 2 times, barely know us, and just open up. And that's what we're there for, because that's what you need. You just need a group of guys that, man, if you're going through something and you're struggling, they're only a phone call away, or you're going to see them on Saturday. You can ask for prayers and just leave it as that, or you can be specific as you want and ask for prayers and help through what you're going through. And that's been the most remarkable thing that I think can think of it.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, this has been a great conversation.
I got a conversation. I got a question for you though.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I've seen everything you're posting on Instagram. I've seen your race schedule, and you're loaded this year. What are you building up to, or what's your A race? Because you've got a lot going on, right? And you're not going to mid state, which breaks all of our hearts, right? But your race schedule looks insane. I just saw you threw another one out for May, possibly. What are you building to, man? What you got going on there?
Yeah, so my race schedule started as two spring half marathons, a fall marathon, and then um, the Tennessee Mile down
Yeah.
in back in December.
Mhm.
So the two half marathons is spring. One is with my brother. Me and him we grew up in Toledo, and
Mhm.
he trained for and did his first half marathon last year
Gotcha.
and loved it. But knew that, hey, if I would have really gone all in on this, I probably could have done better. So
Sure.
he wanted to sign up and do it again. Toledo is an hour away from me. It's local. I don't have to get, too much permission to go do that race.
Sure.
So I'm
Yes.
like, yeah,
Yes.
I'll go do that. That'll be a good training run for me. My wife, she signed up for her first half marathon last fall and got injured
Oh, that's
training
right.
for that
Yep.
race. So she had to back out of that race and wasn't able to do it. And there's one in May that's up in Traverse City and it's over Memorial Day weekend. It's a beautiful race. And she's like, I want to do that one. So we signed up for that. So again, this is one I'm going to go rate. I'm going to run with my brother. I'm going to run with my wife. These are going to be good, reasons for me to stay with my training.
Sure.
And not to be cocky or anything, but a half marathon right now just isn't enough to get me training. It's,
Right.
most days, if you told me, hey, Tim, I need you to come run a half marathon with me, I could probably come and do it without much thought.
It's a good
So
feeling. Yeah.
if I'm going to train for, and then the marathon what is the Berlin Marathon, which is
Yes.
part of my race series. I want to run all the majors.
Right.
So
Very
I've
cool.
I've ran the U.S. majors. Boston, New York, and Chicago. So the rest of them are all foreign. And so getting into those is very hard. And
Sure.
I got an opportunity to get into Berlin. So I'm like, well, I've kind of gone down this trail running path, but I
Hmm.
still have this goal out here I want to finish, which is the major.
Sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to do that. But with that traveling, I have fundraising I have to do. I have travel, international airline tickets for me and my
Hmm.
wife,
Yes.
hotel for several days. And then we're going to be in Berlin. So I'm not going to go all the way there just to turn around and come home. So
Oh, absolutely not.
it's going to be a lot of money and a lot of time training for that stuff. And if I want to go back down to Tennessee in December, I had to pick and choose what I'm going to sign up for. So I can't do it
Gotcha.
all.
I got you.
So I picked Tennessee 40. I signed up for the 40 hour this year. I did the 24 last year. So I signed up for the 40 hour this year and over mid-state. Because if I
Gotcha.
went to mid-state, I'm not going to be able to go do the 40.
Sure.
So that's why I'm not doing mid-state. I have tons of FOMO already about it. I know it's just going to get continually worse as we get closer, but I'm hoping to do a lot of my training with Doug and those guys out here training. So the reason I signed up for the two other races is they're both local and they're big races that'll get me active now. So
Right.
there's a 50K that I'm doing in May, that is local. It's 15 minutes from my house,
Yeah,
so
that's right there.
I can spend some time training on that course, getting some elevation, and keeping my trail running alive and awake.
Sure.
And
Sure.
then there's a 50 miler in June. So when I saw these two races, I was talking to Darren, my coach, and I was
Hmm.
like, I don't, there's a 100K version of it and a 100 miler as well. So I was telling him, I don't know if I want to do the 100K. That's kind of my next step. I did
Right.
55 in Tennessee in December. So 100K is like my next level. So
Sure.
it's like, I don't know if I want to do a 100K or if I want to do a 100 miler. And so I was trying to decide between those two, and I had a friend reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this 50K." So I was like, "Okay, well, I'll just do the 50K and the 50 miler instead of one or the other."
Sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
doing both of those with my goal for the marathon is to my fastest marathon's a 4:20.
Sure.
So I would like to, and this is all in preparation for my A
Hmm.
race, which I'll,
Yep.
spoiler alert, is Tennessee Mile in December. Um,
Yeah.
but my training for that is going to have to be year-long discipline training. So my Berlin race, I want to be under 4 hours.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
so I would love to break that 4 hour mark. Darren thinks I can get 3.5, which is phenomenal. I need to drop some weight. I need to be in like the best shape I've been in. So these races leading up to that are all in preparation. I'm going to have to do speed work. I'm going to have to do all these
Hmm.
things leading up to that race that's at the end of September so that as soon as I come back from that, I'm hitting training for Tennessee Mile hard to
Right.
hit the goal that I want to hit, which this is the first time publicly saying is 100 miles. So
Nice.
I want to do 100 miles in 40 hours, which I'll be picking your brain at a lot because
Gotcha.
um,
I've
you were
got
able
some,
to.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot. So I do have suggestions. Yeah, absolutely.
So 40 miles, December 4th, in 40 hours. That's my A goal this year. Everything
Perfect.
else is just training and building blocks for me to get there.
Got
So
it.
a lot of local stuff, one that's very far away from being local, and then
Yeah.
a trip down to Tennessee.
Perfect. Yeah. I was just curious. I was like, he's busy this year. He's got a lot going
Yeah.
on. I know he's not going to mid-state. Which one of these is our A race? So I'm
Yeah.
glad you came out today. So
Yeah, there may be some more just local stuff that I get in the mix
sure.
around that time, but a big part of it's going to be staying injury free. Um, once you
Yes.
start, I mean, like anybody, once you start ramping up those miles and the intensity, the volume, and all those weeks,
Hmm.
um, taking care of yourself is just as important as getting miles in. So,
Absolutely.
it's going to be fun. I'm excited for the year, and I'm excited to watch my friends and what they do. So Tennessee Mile or Mid-State Mile will be live streamed the entire time. I'll probably not sleep that whole night so I can stay in line with the live stream and cheer you
Uh,
guys on. But
it's going to be
you
fun.
guys are gonna have a blast. Yeah.
Yes. I'm gearing up for it. Training started January 3rd. So we're,
Yeah.
we're ready to go. And that's all I have on my calendar. That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mid-State.
That's
That
my
that's
A
your
race.
that's your A race.
Yep. So everything I do is building up to that. So we'll see how we
Well,
go.
you're gonna have to beat a an 18-year-old this year.
Yeah, I ran with him a lot last year, and he is a machine. Yes,
Yeah.
he's like a robot, actually. Same pace the whole time. And then I think we got a guy named Harvey Lewis that's going down there too. I think he'll be
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I think he'll be okay.
Harvey Lewis. I think I've
Yeah,
heard the name before.
yeah, yeah. Somebody's mentioned it to me. I think he'll be okay. So
Yeah.
it'll be an interesting year for sure.
It's going to be a stacked group. I'm excited for you guys. Like
Yes.
I said, I definitely have FOMO, and
Yeah.
um, it's going to get worse and worse the day as long as it
Yep.
goes. Um, but Brian, I thanks again, man. I appreciate
Thank
you taking your
you.
time. I thank you
It's an
for
honor.
opening up and sharing your story with us. And I know this will impact others. I'm going to put in the show notes how you guys can get in touch with Brian, where you can find him on social media. I'll put the link to the Pat Mahan Foundation and the 5K that you guys do. Um,
Appreciate it.
I did it virtually this year, so you don't
Yes.
have to live in Colorado to
Yeah.
sign up and do it. But you have to do it at the same time, so it has to,
Yeah.
or it doesn't count.
Or like Doug would say, hey, just come on down. It'll be better.
Yes.
So
but that is something I know we talk about it. I like I said, man, that is a real goal of mine is to come out and spend the weekend with you guys out in Colorado. So who
I
knows, it
tell you
might
what,
happen.
after Berlin and after you're ramping up for your Tennessee Mile, you can come on out then, and we'll take you up into the mountains, and we'll give you some real trails, and then you'll be ready.
That'd be a dream.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian, again. And
You.
thank you guys. If this meant anything to you, if this connected with you in any way, please share it. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with strangers, just post it. And if it did speak to you, it'd be awesome if you'd leave a comment, let us know how it impacted you. And thanks again for listening.
Thank you guys.